When Doctor Strange was talking about 14,605 probabilities, what were these possibilities? And the more important question nowadays is, was he lying by telling? It's the only way. Everyone wonders that question. Why did Iron Man have to die? This scene where Doctor Strange sees everything appears to be absurd by fan sites. On the look, this opinion sounds reasonable, but there are not so many details about that. Besides everything, why did the Avengers wait 5 years instead of all the other ways to stop Thanos? And why did Tony Stark die as a result? People on the internet found so many different explanations for these questions. But for me, the only reasonable excuse is Doctor Strange knew that the only way to their victory was this. Of course, there are plenty of ways to beat Thanos. They can tear off his arm and destroy his army. After Infinity War, nobody left from Thanos' soldiers. The simplest one is Doctor Strange opening a portal and falling, can cut off Thanos just because of that. So many people thought Strange did it, just to put some dirt in Tony's eyes. But here we are talking about Doctor Strange. I mean, he is not a kid. The problem is very simple here. However, some groups of people on the internet said that most of the problems occurred because of Iron Man. However, that is just because of the reason and result connection. So even if Thanos has stopped, it's not clear what Iron Man will do after that. As a result, Tony had 5 years to spend time with his family. When Doctor Strange said this is the only way, perhaps he looked at scenarios after Thanos' death. Besides all of that, beating Thanos is so easy for the Avengers. Normally, Vision is as strong as Superman, but in the endgame, he has shown us to be weak, and Doctor Strange still did not tell anybody about other probabilities and what other events he saw. But right before his death, Strange told Tony Stark that this was the only way, maybe in their situation. Possibilities still did not end. I mean, these 14,605 probabilities matter still go on. Josh Brolin announced he will return as Cable and follows. In this case, in the Endgame and Infinity War, Luke continues. As you know, Thanos was killed by Thought in both cases, but another Thanos variant came up from the past, and that happened 5 years after his death. So the probabilities may never end if it happens again. For example, I talked about Thor's finger snap, or Captain Marvel could do it too. There was no need for Tony's death, but so Strange must be considered future events too. And because of that, he chose Tony for that role. And someone might ask, if there's only one timeline, how did Strange see 14 million possibilities? To be honest, at that point, everything becomes confusing. As we know from the Loki series, TVA is outside the timeline. Multiverse timelines are formed both in the past and in the future. So TVA's existence didn't affect Avengers, but somehow they took Loki when he tried to play with the timeline. In my opinion, Ken was behind these events from the very beginning, and he made up Tony's death for his interests or to keep the timeline safe. In the end, there are only several characters with equal knowledge and intelligence to go. Tony Stark's space-time GPS project could sabotage Kanks's plans, and maybe because of that, Tony Stark should have died in every possible future that Doctor Strange saw the Conqueror. Kang is a human in the end just like Tony Stark, and Tony Stark completed the Mobius line, and it spoils that he will be a competitor to Kang in the future. We saw countless remains in the Loki series that Ken was keeping the multiverse under his control and was trying to prevent any cases that could create the multiverse before it happened. Of course, he couldn't predict Sylvia's future because he didn't know she had a future when Sylvia managed to live by hiding in apocalypses. So in my opinion, this character is the one behind Tony Stark's death. If Iron Man had lived, he could have figured out that someone was controlling the timeline. Maybe TVA didn't want to mess with the Avengers. As Ramona said, these must have happened, then who made these decisions? Everyone blames Doctor Strange, but in future movies Ken might confess this. Why will we set Kenyan Admin's next film? That's because at this point, the biggest threat to Ken would be Admin's technology. He remains a gadget that looks like Tony's device in the Endgame. So with the help of this device, we'll be able to control the timeline. In the Endgame's possibilities, Iron Man's life was a must-have forgotten. After the intervention of that device, somewhere in the future, Ken will use this tech and take over everything. In conclusion, these were the reasons and theories behind Tony Stark's death and possible futures after that. Hope you liked this video. Thank you for watching.